A ruler at the height of his power commits a single, thoughtless act of anger and in return receives a terrifying sentence. He has exactly 7 days to live before he is struck down by a primordial, non-human assassin. Takshaka functions as the sharp edge of a physical law. He is destiny itself, the specific instrument through which a king's karma is calculated and processed. His lineage reaches back to the earliest generations of creation. Born to the sage Kashyapa, a progenitor of life, and Kadru, the mother of serpents, Takshaka represents one of the primary branches of the world's ancient family tree. Long before the king's birth, a shadow fell over this race. Kadru argued with her sister over the color of a celestial horse and ordered her children to help her cheat to win the dispute. When several refused, she condemned her own offspring to eventually burn in a massive serpent sacrifice. In this tradition, a spoken curse operates as a physical law of nature. It acts as a seed planted in the fabric of time, waiting across generations for the specific conditions required to bear fruit. Generations later, those conditions materialized. King Parikshit, the heir to the Kuru throne, was hunting deep in the forest, exhausted and desperate for water. He entered a hermitage seeking help, but the resident sage, Samika, was deep in meditation and did not respond. Frustrated by the silence, the king lifted a dead snake with his bow, draped it over the sage's neck, and walked away. When the sage's son learned of this disrespect, rage consumed him. Relying on the power of his intense spiritual practices, he declared that the serpent king Takshaka would end the king's life in exactly 7 days. Kadru's ancient wrath and Parikshit's momentary frustration are now locked together. A dormant, multi-generational curse has finally found its target. We often look for massive cosmic events to explain our circumstances, but the mechanics of karma are highly sensitive. A fleeting burst of anger or a small display of arrogance is the precise trigger that sets the dormant machinery of destiny into motion. When Parikshit receives his sentence, he does not mobilize his armies or hunt down the sage. He accepts his fate and immediately relinquishes his throne. He travels to the banks of the sacred Ganga, sitting by the water's edge to begin a strict fast until the moment of his death. As he prepares for the end, the young sage Sukadeva arrives. For the next 7 days and nights, the two engage in an intense dialogue exploring the mechanics of creation and the nature of the soul. This specific 7-day exchange is recorded as the Bhagavata Purana, securing its place as a cornerstone text of Hindu philosophy. The timeline of the curse forces a total surrender of worldly attachments. The absolute certainty of an approaching death removes all distractions, turning a fatal decree into the catalyst for a profound spiritual awakening. As the 7th day arrives, the palace locks down. Guards patrol every corridor, and thick walls surround the king's chamber, ensuring no serpent can get anywhere near him. But Takshaka approaches the gates disguised as an elderly brahmana. Denied entry by the guards, he simply offers a basket of fruit as a gift. Inside one of those fruits hides a tiny worm. The moment the king accepts the basket, it emerges, exploding into the massive serpent king. Before anyone in the room can react, Takshaka strikes. King Parikshit falls dead, fulfilling the sage's decree to the exact day. You cannot build a wall thick enough to block a karmic consequence. When the conditions are set, the result arrives with mathematical precision, regardless of physical barriers. The death of a king demands a successor. Parikshit's son, Janamejaya, takes the throne consumed by a blinding rage over his father's assassination. He retaliates by organizing the Sarpa Satra, a colossal ritual sacrifice designed to annihilate the entire serpent species. The ritual reaches a horrific scale. Guided by powerful mantras, priests pull thousands of helpless serpents out of the sky, dragging them into the flames. Takshaka flees to the heavens and seeks the protection of Indra, king of the gods. But the chanting grows so intense that even the deities lose their grip, and Takshaka begins slipping toward the fire. Janamejaya believes he is enacting his own personal justice, but he is unwittingly executing the ancient curse Kadru placed on her children at the origin of her lineage. Just as the species teeters on the edge of extinction, a young sage named Astika steps into the sacrifice, armed only with calm reasoning and spiritual clarity. He approaches the furious king. Through parcel logic, he cuts through the emotional chaos, persuading Janamejaya that the cycle of retaliation has claimed enough lives. The king finally relents. The chanting stops, Takshaka is spared, and the ancient serpent lineage survives. Looking at this timeline, we see a chain of events: a mother's curse, a king's frustration, and a son's vengeance. If you remove any single tragedy, the king never seeks the Ganga. Without Takshaka, the Bhagavata Purana's wisdom is never gifted to the world. This specific sequence of loss and anger reveals a hidden coherence. Within this mythological framework, what appears to be a random tragedy is actually the necessary pressure required to drive the king and the world toward a higher realization.